The ruling party made several deceptive pronouncements while in the opposition that they had information on corrupt practices by the immediate past cabinet officials. He says the fight against corruption under the New Dawn administration should have been a walkover. The former Minister of Justice further claims the much-promised fast-track courts on asset recovery is currently. He was speaking in an interview with MUVI TV News in Lusaka.
On the part of the president. Okay. He has been running with this mantra since he came into office of corruption in PF. I'll tell you who has stolen what. We are going to recover your looted property, planted property. He says, you know, there are ghost workers, you know, at the Ministry of Finance. No, not ghost workers, beg your pardon. Ghost suppliers of goods and services. Nothing so far has come up as evidence. Nobody has been arrested. Nobody has been charged. Nobody has been convicted. Nobody is even under investigation. Anybody who has helped himself to the financial resources of this country or otherwise, they must be brought to account. But what are also not accepting is to get on this trajectory of just alarming the nation, of maligning others, vilifying them, and psyching people because we are failing to work, that you are chasing this cost called corruption under PF. We want to see where this corruption is. We want to see who was involved. We want to see who stole what. You remember he said that he was going to establish fast-track courts to try cases of corruption. Not even one court has been established. Again, this was a figment of the man's imagination. Okay? If you haven't arrested any of Edgar's ministers for corruption, how does Edgar become corrupt alone? If you haven't convicted any one of his ministers, the people that were working with him, the people that were exercising his delegated functions, you know, as chief executive of government, how can you convince any reasonable person that only Edgar was corrupt and therefore you need to lift his immunity? Do the job. If he doesn't, the youth will fix him in 2026. And you'll be shocked. He's been crying for this job, you know, for years. Oh, they've stolen the election results from me. Oh no, they've stolen, you know, from me 5 times. And God says, Bwana, here you are. I've given it to you now. So let him prove it. That if he had been voted 3 years ago, Zambia would have been a paradise. But so far, in the 100 days,
Kabimba accuses the ruling United Party for National Development Upnd administration of caring less for the citizenry relating to the COVID-19 guidelines given recently by the Minister of Health, Sylvia Masebo. He says the fight against COVID-19 should not violate the rights of individuals by making the vaccine program a mandatory requirement. Mr. Kabimba advises the government to invest in sensitization and awareness programs, especially in rural areas.
The statement from the Honorable Minister of Health does not refer to any piece of legislation on which those guidelines are anchored. None at all. It's a common sense press statement. But what is shocking is that we are told in that statement, you know, that there was a meeting of the so-called Council of Ministers. It's the first time I served in government. This is the first time when I'm hearing of that ad hoc team. What is shocking to us in the Rainbow Party is that you can have a team of ministers, you can have a team of ministers, you can have only the vice president chairing a meeting to pass resolutions or decisions that are unconstitutional and illegal. Why? Because there are people in this country, Mtumba, that hold their faith, very, very strong. There are people that are avid Christians, and that is guaranteed to them under the Constitution. Freedom of conscience is guaranteed under our Republican Constitution. So you can't compel them, you can't force them to take a COVID vaccine jab. And you can't also say to them, if you don't take the jab, you will not be able to access government services or enter a government building. In other words, they can't even go to the clinic. Okay? Because the clinic is a public building. How can that be a decision, a rational decision from the so-called Council of Ministers? A decision which is as ridiculous as it is illegal. Then she goes further and says the president has directed, since the work under direction.
And now the Zambia Union of Government and Allied Workers, UG,